All right, Dale, let's start this up. Thank you so much, man, for doing this with me. Seriously, it's a really an honor and a pleasure to be doing this with people like you. Um, let's start with the elephant in the room. Like I said, I'm gonna call it the Corona love, and I know you understand what I'm talking about now. What's your take on all this stuff from that point, like from the loving aspect that we should see, and how grateful we should be about this coronavirus?
Yeah. So I like to call it a reflection. So what this life is about for us in this journey is the universe is always helping us to evolve into that space of where we get to understand and really know who we really are. And through that process of getting to know who we really are, as we have circumstances in life that really bring up emotions in us that helps us to go deeper within to understand the divine essence that's within each and every one of us. And it happened. I'm pretty sure you can attest to this as well. Throughout life, it could have been like circumstances of relationships, family upbringings, external things, work, all these things that really spark some emotions out of us to the point of when we have lost those things, we may have felt like we lost a part of ourselves. But what happened was there was a part of ourselves that was calling for us to go deeper into. So with this Corona love, it's allowing us a beautiful opportunity to really be present to this massive reflection that's happening. And the crazy thing is that it's not like just one thing that's happening for one person. This is happening on a collective, on a global scale, in which we are being present to something that is bringing up a lot of these trapped emotions that we've been having, like fear and a lot of other things too. People are being selfish and all these things, but that fear of the unknown and really trying to and the other thing is like coming to the realization of we can't control what is happening, and a lot of people are losing control, meaning that like you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And what's happening you see on the news, the way the news is talking about it is like this thing is getting worse, it's spreading, it's getting bigger and things like that. So you can't control the fact of like there's a virus that nobody has a cure for that is like spreading around the world. Some people are dying and some people getting affected, and people are afraid of like, oh my god, what's gonna happen if I get affected? What happens if I die? And also the thing that this reflection is doing is making everybody go within, and by going within mean being at home, not being at those jobs and all these external distractions that would distract us from really being present. So
So it's
it's
almost like this healing. This I would call it like a mass healing, the way you're describing it, because it's like it's forcing us into doing that introspective work where the reaction that we're having, it's almost like you said, the reflection of what our fears are. So the way I see it, I don't know if you agree with this, is just like this virus is bringing up all our emotional baggage that we have there, and it's like bringing it out because now everybody is conscious about this, and it's almost like a therapy that's happening. People, if they take the opportunity to see it this way as opposed to with the fear mentality.
yeah. And even and I totally agree, and even those people who are seeing it with the fear right now, they are still on a journey right now of this healing that is going through. And the thing about it, and I see like a lot of spiritual teachers online, they're talking about this too. They are trying to like, I guess, like force people out of that fear and like really shift into like where they're at right now. And personally, that's a little bit of egoic and trying to control. I know it's like coming at a place of love to like try to help people to shift, but it's like people are going to shift in their own time as well. And it's sort of like a baby that's learning to walk. All babies don't learn how to walk at the same time. We have to go through our process of crawling and taking those couple steps and stumbling and things like that. And that baby mindset knows that, oh, it's okay. Like I'm going through this process. I know where I'm heading to, but I know that it's going to happen in my time. So this is a perfect opportunity, not only for the people who are in fear right now, but also for the people who are like these spiritual teachers who have awakened to really practice that compassion and this cooperation. This is a collective shift that's happening. And this is where like those teachings of unconditional love and holding space, this is the moment of really doing that and letting people know it's okay to be afraid. We're human. We're human right now, and your perception, your belief where you're at right now, it may bring that up. We all get afraid of something eventually. And the cool thing, what allows the spiritual teachers this opportunity too is just be able to walk the walk, but then also have that compassion and let people know too, like, we've been afraid before, and we, of course, we incorporated some tools. So if the person is ready to hear those tools, perfect. If they're not, cool. But just continue to just walk the walk and just practice it.
I
This
love
is
the
it.
way you put that. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, as you're talking, I'm relating all this stuff like to a planned medicine ceremony where the way you're saying, that people should go through the experiences and how some spiritual guides are actually kind of interfering with the process. Seems like, when you're trying to control either, your own experience or the experience of somebody else who is in the space of the medicine. So it sounds a lot like that. And that's why it just keeps coming to me right now that this is just like a massing healing, a mass healing that's happening in the planet. And I actually never thought about that. That's pretty powerful what you said, because even myself have been, trying to convey the message that, we should stay, positive and all this. But it's true. I mean, if people are fighting or confronting their demons, so to speak, they should be allowed to confront those fears, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the question to ask yourself is like, what's positive? What's negative? It's our perspective of what's happening that we give that label to what is deemed as positive and what is deemed negative. And I've really started to understand more of that term of all is well. And all is well means that all is well. It's not like this is negative, this is wrong, this is right, and this stuff,
All is
because that's
well.
egoic.
All is
And
well. Yeah.
yeah, and like really engulfing that all is well type of thing, it allows this space. And it too, like from your own awakening, your own healing. If you would have got pulled out of that any moment earlier than when you got pulled out of it, you wouldn't have been able to get all those lessons that you got to integrate it to where you're at right now. It's
Yeah.
sort of like, it's like pulling out the tooth before the tooth is ready to come out type of thing.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. At this point, I'm pretty sure people who are listening are going to ask themselves, like, okay, my situation is pretty individual. Like, I'm going through different stuff, and nobody can relate to me. What do you think should be, without going into the interference of their process? How should they confront their fears, or anything that you can come up with that you think should be helpful for anybody in any situation? Like, almost like a magic key, or a master key that people can start using to start confronting these fears.
Yeah. The first step is being still and being present to it, and really being present to it in a space that you're not trying to fix it. That's where we all get wrong with when we have like situations that bring up emotions in us. Our first thing is that survival fight or flight mode when we're trying to fix it immediately. And the easiest way to explain it is like, if you're trying to fix something in the same state that you were when the moment happened, you'll never be able to. You'll just keep on going through that process and really going through it over and over again with the same mindset compared to before you were doing it, and it's going to be the same results. But by being in that space of just accepting where you're at right now and being present to it, it's profound. And from there, you can be able to really get some insights from whatever could be happening: fear, anger, upset. It's all energy that has information in it. And by just allowing that space for those fears, the anger, to show you the lesson and show you what part of yourself is calling for your attention, but then for you to really just have that space to sit with yourself with that, it allows that transformation information to take that next step, but also have that compassion of understanding like it's not going to be a one quick fix pill type of thing. It's going to be a process. And
Mm.
by just being present and acknowledge it from the beginning, you start the process of that. And you're going to be able to start making those new steps that you weren't able to make while you're in that energy of really being engulfed in that fear, anger, or whatever emotion is.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty powerful. So let me ask you another question because I think I want to get your take on this. It feels like a lot of people, who are going into this moment, they feel like, they probably wasted too much time in the past by not doing, certain things that, could be beneficial right now to have. But I think it helps to see perspective from people like you who have advanced spiritually a lot, for the past years and probably your whole life because you've been aware of it. But is there something that you also feel that people can relate that you're going through right now? I mean, this has affected us all, in different ways. So is there anything that you've seen, since this outbreak started that you have been fearing and you have been confronting yourself?
Yeah. And it's been like a week of that. And the fear of the unknown, the fear of really not being in control of things, the fear of this this virus, of wondering like, oh my God, what if it happened? What if this virus gets to my fiance? What if it gets to my son who has asthma? What if it gets to my mother or father who are older? And also like my sister's in the hospital right now. Oh my God, what happens if it gets to my sister? Type of thing. So I'm having all these different scenarios that happen in my head with this fear, and the fear of also like, what if I get it and I'm gone? And
Yeah.
thinking about that, and it really helped me to come to this realization of the fact of, well, in this realm, in this 3D bodysuit that we have, we are mortal. And it's bringing people to that humbling moment of realizing that we're mortal. And I did a video months ago about that, of the expiring time. And what pretty much what that's about is just coming to that realization of we don't know when exactly our time is, what time we are going to go. And we're here on borrowed time, and to make each moment the best moment possible by really just doing that work and being present and loving everyone, and really understanding the fact of like all the stuff in the past is gone, and being fully present into the now, and really just ask yourself, how can you make this moment the best moment of your life each moment?
Wow, that's a powerful way to transmute the fear that you got into empowerment. The way I understand it is that you came from the point of fearing for your life and your loved ones, transmuting into appreciation of life itself, like appreciating. This is where that introspective work seems to work a lot, because now instead of fearing your own death or the death of anybody around you, you come to appreciate them for being around and you yourself for being here. But you touch on the key word that's been resonating in my head for the past for this whole week, as I try to figure out this pandemic that seems to be more of a mental and conscious crisis as opposed to a physical one. And one thing that keeps coming to me, and I want to take your opinion on this, is that it seems like the virus is physically real, but it's exacerbated in its manifestation by the fear of the person that carries it. And one of the things that I say now, and I started saying this week, is that I assume that I have the virus already in me. I welcome it and I embrace it, but I don't feed it with fear. I actually feed it with love, because I want to allow it in myself and just receive it with all the love that it's actually bringing. Even if I don't physically have it, it's almost like a mental thing to accept it as something it's bringing uh, big positive things to the world itself. Does that make sense? In the way that we should see the virus not with fear, but with love, with all the things that it's bringing.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's unconditional love, and that's the teachings of this divine essence is all love, and also we're all connected. So, like you said, that the virus is a part of us. It came from consciousness, and we all came from that same source. So, by really having that communication with it in that way, it helps you to like really feed it with love, because that's pretty much what's happening right now. Is that virus is a reflection from the universe that's crying out to all of us for love.
Wow. Yeah. You just made a point that I'm not a student of the course in miracles, but Julie, my wife, is. And one of the things that I see that it keeps repeating there is the perception that everything is God. God is within everything because God is creation. And whatever you can see is made by God. Even those lines that we create that's evil and good, evil is, it's created by God as a duality for us to experience life. It's the human experience. So what you're saying is basically the same thing. Like, we should embrace everything, especially this virus, as something that came from source, which I like to call it, and just be it part of us in itself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it all comes from source. It all comes from love. There's no like there's no good, there's no evil. It's what we label it as. And it's what society labels things as: good, bad. Of course, there's hurtful things that happen out there in the world, but I say it's like there's lessons and blessings. And some of us, the lessons are pretty rough for some of us to really what we went through or have went through. But it all comes to that same thing, because at the end of the day, once we all return back from where we're at right now in this physical world, we're going back to love. We're going back to source.
Right. That makes sense. And totally agree with that. Now, there's something that gets in the back of my head, which is how people perceive this. Especially people like you who are seeing it, from that loving perspective. I see this as an experience that we have in this human body, like you said, and sometimes I entertain the idea that this is almost like a video game, right? Like, we're here logged into this physical suits, and instead of getting into the minutia of the little things that create life, or our experience in general, we should appreciate every single aspect of it. Is there any way that you see this also, like from an analogous way, that you perceive life as something that's beautiful with all its imperfections and perfections?
Yeah. And I go back and forth. I admit that I'm human. And sometimes I get into a spiritual victimhood. So um, there's a normal there's normal victimhood that happens, that we complain about things, and blame others. And once we get through that portion, there's like the next level of spiritual victimhood, in which we it's crazy, because I was talking about this with somebody, but I was saying like we still blame things for what is happening to us in life, meaning like blaming the retrograde, or blaming our signs, or blaming the energy or this thing for the reason why we're being upset and giving our power away, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I have moments of that, but then there's moments in which, like that beautiful nature, like you said, when life is like really, we really see life like a game type of thing. But like I see it as like a kid again, like that fascination of like a little kid like walking in like a candy store, or walking in like a toy store type of thing, just looking around and like just seeing like all these different ways that the universe created all these wonderful things to express itself, like from the trees. And
Yeah.
I'm living at this beautiful lake house. I get to see the lake all the time,
Okay.
see the universe talk in that way. But just walking out in nature, just seeing animals, hearing animals talk in the morning, the birds and their communication. And there's all these different like universal inventions in which people tapped into the universe and created all these beautiful arts and designs and things like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty powerful way to see it too. You touched on something that I want to get into, which is just maintaining in the topic, but slightly off track. Um, when we put the blame on something external, I call it, being irresponsible with yourself, because you're not taking responsibility for your perception of it, and it's almost like being lazy and not perceiving it. Now, right now, everybody is, in this lockdown, right? So we have the opportunity again to reflect on our lives. And probably one of the things that I start, with some of my clients when I talk to them is, in this introspection, work in recognizing what you judge. And I think this is a great time to start seeing what is it that we judge, because judging is almost the same thing as you were saying. It's putting the responsibility onto somebody else as opposed to your perception. So um, right now, it's probably a good time to start seeing this judgmental, because we all have some sort of judgment. That's just the fact of the human experience. And I think that's the beauty of it too, as we see it. Without going into the duality of it, just seeing it, from a different perspective, is it's the beauty of us recognizing who we are and peeling those things that don't belong to us, which is the judgment. So back again to the question, how do you see this judgment work in people, and how they can take advantage of this moment now when we have less distractions or entertainments, unless you're watching the news, which I probably recommend nobody to watch right now, and start watching themselves. But how do you see this playing out right now, working, your judgmental ways and perceiving it?
Yeah. And it goes right back to earlier when I was talking about like the other emotions like fear and those things, and this setting that love and space for it. And like you said, like we all judge, and the first things come to realization of, if you're judging others, it's because you're judging a part of yourself that you're afraid to like go into. So I say like the first thing is to really just come to the acknowledgement of you're judging, and what are you judging? And ask yourself, what part of me am I afraid to face from this judgment?
Hmm.
And see what answer comes up from that.
All right. That makes total sense, because I think the fear that I have confronted, every time I put my convictions to question, is losing a part of me that I kind of hold dear. And it's hard to recognize it as ego as opposed to my identity, my real identity. And sometimes it's almost like fear of finding, who you truly are.
Hmm.
Sometimes the fear is just like of who you truly are. And what really comes as a rewarding thing is every time you do challenge yourself to those convictions, you go through the process of going through what we call the dark night of the soul, and then you reveal something that you were afraid and now you cherish so much because it's so beautiful. So this is this something that happens to you as well, and it still happens often, this revealing of yourself?
Yeah. And it's endless because it's infinite. Like we're infinite beings. And there's always things that are popping up that I'm exploring more. And the cool thing now of really taking the spiritual work serious and really integrating is, when I do, if I if I'm affected anything externally, no matter what, that takes me out of this love and blissful experience, I know there's a part of myself that I got to explore, and there's a
Mhm.
part of me that I got to shed some light to and love it, so that way it can know that it's okay. So for me, when it happens way less often than it was before, before it'd be like a pretty much every day type of thing, every moment. And I would just be in the easy way out before, in which I was like, okay, I'm just going to blame this other person or blame this external thing happening, and not really going to take a look at myself. And what happens is the universe, it knocks at you gentle at first when you get that way. or when you first see it. But then if you're not paying attention, the next you know, the universe is going to throw a brick at you to get your attention. And if that doesn't work, then the universe is just going to shatter your whole foundation to get you to that point of really surrendering and taking that look into what's really going on. So for myself now, by just setting that space and also being willing to do it, it's so much easier now. And the universe always like gives me a universal pat on the back, like, you're doing the work. Good, great job. So, here's the next thing for you.
It's like endless work.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that, especially when you said that now it feels like it's seldom, not as often as before. But I don't know if you relate to this. I feel like at the beginning when I started doing my work, it was so painful because one thing took me weeks, to accept. And, and like you said, if you deny it, if you deny the experience from it, you're going to feel that the universe is going to throw you in a cycle. And every time it comes back, like you said, it comes harder and harder until you actually are forced. I say it's almost, when I explain it to people, it's almost like the universe is, giving you gentle, shoves into the cliff for you to take the leap of faith. And it's not doing it until, at the end, you're going to be at the edge and it's just going to push you and do it, So, there's something to be said about this, that as you go through the process is like, you can process more stuff faster because you are now in allowance of this process of healing internally, and you get better at it. So the more practice people get seems to get you there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's it. Practice, spiritual practice. It's like going in a gym,
Yeah.
working our spiritual muscles. At first, when we first start working out, it's going to be pretty painful. It's going to hurt us a lot, and we're going to be pretty sore. But what happens is the more you start working those muscles, which in this case is spiritual muscles, they get stronger and keep getting stronger and stronger. So that way, when things come up, and knowing the fact that things are going to come up because it's inevitable. But the cool thing is, like, when things come up, I'm stronger than I was a week ago, a day ago, months ago, years ago. So I know when it happens, I have the capacity to really work through it. And I just know like what's going to happen at the end of it. And all these things, emotion wise and feelings, they're all temporary. And when we hold on to it, that's when it start like getting that friction type of thing. And that's even joy, bliss, all those things, they all come and go type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't hold on to anything. And that's the problem. What happens with a lot of people is like we try to hold on to these things longer than we're supposed to. That could be a relationship too. Hold on to this longer than we're supposed to, when naturally it just takes its course and supposed to move out the way to make room for another thing. Then, like we were saying, like the universe gives you those opportunities, and sometimes the universe has got to kick your ass to like get you moving along to the next thing. So the more stronger we get, and also the more flexible we are to like really understanding how this life, how things flow, the easier and more fun things are.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's almost like embracing the pain as opposed to just
Yeah.
holding it in and just processing that pain as part of your spiritual growth.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. We even hold on to pain. And what happens holding on to pain is we become the victim, that victimhood mentality. And we use it as a scapegoat. And of course, like the hardest thing is like when this spiritual awakening happens, the hardest thing for us is to really let go of that. Because we're afraid, like what's going to happen when I let go of this identity and this victimhood story that I have, to step into something unknown. And like, I'm so comfortable with being a victim, and I'm afraid to like really step into this newfound power. But then also we hear the calling, because then we understand where we're at, and like, oh my God, I don't really like where I'm at right now. But then the universe like, hey, I'm trying to get you to this next evolution. You gotta let this thing go. But then like, I want to let it go, but I don't want to let it go. Type of thing, like
This brings me to something that I've been feeling. I mean, you already know my story. I've been into this for the past year, and it seems like every month that I get into, things are accelerating faster and faster. So I've been hearing that we're getting into a place in space time where things are exponentially growing in terms of energy, and the way this is also affecting our human experience to process all these things that we have been talking about for the past 20 minutes or so, where we need to just forcibly start healing, whereas before it seemed like it was an option for us to become better. Now it's like mandatory to become better with ourselves and improve inside. Does this, comes up in your path a lot? Do you see this pattern of almost exponential growth on everybody that you're working with and yourself with the past couple of years, even?
Yeah, and I would definitely say like within this past year, and it's only natural because of the fact of like with myself and my reality, I made that declaration to the universe that like, hey, I'm on this mission for really stepping into this full infinite power and divine essence that I'm truly am to help uplift every single person that I can as well through this. So naturally, by me making that declaration, anybody who's in my reality field and who I'm experienced with, they're going to be going through the same things, whether or not they know it as well. But the same thing is happening. And collectively, this is happening too, because like, you know too, because you're connected to energies. Like Mother Gaia is like, yo, like shit needs to shift like now,
Right.
because like if it doesn't shift, and like I heard it before and it makes total sense, this is our last opportunity to really get this thing right. And if we don't get it right, we're gonna be gone. Humans are gonna be
Mm.
gone. Everybody else, everything else is gonna be fine. Animals and those animals and plants and all the other lives on here, but we're gonna be gone. And it just showed you, like during the quarantine, because I just read in Italy, but with the shutdown that happened when they shut down the whole country or whatever, what started to happen was the pollution started going down, the water got
Wow.
clear, and it showed like videos. Dolphins started swimming in the rivers in Italy right now,
Wow. That's
and
amazing.
and it said this is the first time ever that it was able to see the water so clear. And I can only imagine what's happening like in like New York and things, and like even in this area, because things are starting to get shut down and not that much pollution is happening, and like the world's getting clean. So like I'm pretty sure Mother Gaia is pretty happy right now. But it's like, what's going to happen when this virus calms down? If it calms down, what happens after this? This is our opportunity. Like this is it.
This is a golden ticket for us to raise this consciousness to the next level, to prevent the um, the contamination in all aspects of it. Especially in our frequency level that we've been doing, and this makes so much sense. Especially the spirit of Mother Gaia. This seems like her work. The way it's doing a gentle but very stern work on our collective consciousness. So it seems like this is a golden ticket for us to create that consciousness that she needs, that we all need, because we are Gaia. It's not like she's a separate entity from us. She's the guiding force, that's bringing us to life, but we're separate from that life force, and we're kind of distorted in general. I love the way you put that, and I want to put a little bit of context, for the people listening, and back to the point of what people can do right now, and what kind of emotions to bring up, what kind of ideas to start thinking to contribute in their own way to raise the vibration of the planets. What comes to mind to you that could be general for people to just individually start contributing to this rise in consciousness?
You already answered the question right there, and I'll just say it. At the end, you said individually raising the consciousness of the planet.
Mm.
And it starts individually. We have to do our work to shift our energy. And collectively, by us shifting our energies individually, collectively, we're going to shift the collective consciousness energy, because we're all connected. And what this is about right now is us really dropping those parts of us that no longer serves us, those parts of identities, of beliefs, the actions that we do, and really start to step into that place of love. But the first place to step into with that love is really start to fall in love with yourself unconditionally.
Wow.
So that's acceptance of everything, everything that you may be judging others for, that you have resentment for towards others. And of course, the resentment and the unforgiving you have for yourself. It's really time to let all that stuff go and be present to who you truly are, which is that unconditional love. And starting with yourself, because when you start with yourself, you fall in love with yourself, you're falling in love with God, that divine essence that's within each and every one of us, and it's calling for you to connect to it. And once you connect to that and you fall in love, there's no need to no longer chase these external things to like get those stuff. And collectively, if the whole humanity can be able to do that, we're no longer going to be chasing these things or like trying to scrummage and steal from others and like deceive others and manipulate others to get this stuff that we're trying to survive for, because we feel like there's a shortage of it. Once we tap into that infinite energy within us, there's abundance of it, and it just overflows. And if we're all overflowing, it's just going to overflow in the whole planet. And whoa, welcome to the new age.
Oh my God, I can't wait for that. This brought me to, all right, I want to see, I'm going to go on a little tangent here, but I want you to just go with the flow here with me and follow me, because you just said something that's very powerful and something that I actually synchronistically started thinking this week, at the beginning of this week, as I was writing a piece for a blog, is that unity is all we are, but we seem to be a little distracted, or maybe seeking unity externally. We seem to just imagine unity as all of us getting together under a one understanding. And so it's to me that's a little bit distorted, because the way I see unity is going inwards. Because the more you go inwards, you start seeing the unity of yourself with everything in the planet, like we have been, saying for this whole episode, is that you become unity. You don't become unity with anybody. You become unity with yourself. And once you become one with the creator and the whole universe, then now you start radiating this energy that other people are attracted to, and they feed off this beautiful energy that you become more and more. You don't have to become unity, as, singularity, but just the more you get in that spectrum of unity and radiating that, the more you impact people around you, and they also feed from this essence that you feel inside you, and you, like I said, you radiate outside. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that is spot on.
Love it.
Connecting to that essence, like you mentioned, and really establish your relationship with the creator. Not how this person says that you're supposed to establish a relationship with this creator. Not how this person says it, or this person says it, or you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to do this. They're all helpful, whatever, but you don't have to do that. It's following your own path to discover your own unique relationship with that creator, to bring that out, to bring out your interpretation of that divine creator in your own way. And it's so crazy, and that's why there's plenty of examples of people who really are in that essence and express it, like musical artists out there, inventors, singers, actors, all these different people out there. They're connected to that essence and bringing it out in their own way. And this is why it's so impactful that a lot of people, they just radiate and come to those people when they are letting it out, that essence, authentically in their own way, their own expression. So, and that's the unity, that's that energy. Like you said, it's just something about that when it radiates. And also the fact when you're connected to that and you're bringing it out, you get to see the world as how God sees the world.
That's huge, man. There's one little piece that I want to pull out there because I think it's going to be a lot of value, for people, and that I have found in myself. And we actually talked about this offline. And is so we're going to kind of conditioned to find the one truth, and that conditioning brings us to always find what is real, what is not, and we've discussed already that we need to find our own truth. And it's okay to have, I have my truth, you have your truth. We don't have to fight over, me convincing you or you convincing me. I mean, that's old school already for us. But the question now for because I get a lot of people and that are listening to me or listening to others, and they're wondering, like, what kind of spirituality do we subscribe to? And I think this is a pretty good moment to express the idea that there's no single spirituality, technique, method, or anything. And this is what we're seeing more often now, as opposed to a couple of decades ago, or not even too long ago. We knew that we had to belong in certain religions as opposed to our own spirituality. And now the same way we're talking about our own inner truth is finding like our own inner spirituality, respecting everybody else, and actually loving each other for their own unique expression of spirituality. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because I know you have some really good ideas there.
Yeah. And the great analogy to use that is like sort of like eating ice cream. Some people like strawberry, some people like chocolate, some people like whatever flavor it is. It's what flavor it works for you, what flavor that you like, what flavor allows you to like be you, type of thing. And the cool thing is, like, there's all these different spirituality teachings out there, and each of them have their own thing that can work. And then sometimes, like, one person's teaching spirituality and it's going to attract that tribe of people that it resonates with, because that's what it is. Somebody's bringing out the authentic truth and they're going to attract their tribe, and that tribe is going to like whatever they're teaching, they're going to go with it. But the thing about it is finding what works for you, but it's also understanding the fact of, like, it's okay to like try all these different things to like discover that. And that's with ice cream too. You try different flavors to see what worked for you, and you, oh, this one's too bitter for me, this one's too sweet, this one's too salty, I don't like this one. Oh, this one's just perfect. Or maybe I'll just mix this one with this one and this one and this one and this one, and I make my own ice cream. And yeah, that's pretty much the way it is. I'm going on a tangent and I'm getting so many downloads. I'm like, but yeah. And like you mentioned before, like, we got programmed to believe that there's like just one way it's supposed to work. And that's the religious standpoint of, like, and you see like the arguments, like Christianity, Roman Catholics, all the different religions out there, they feel like this way is the only way, this way is the truth, and then this one's like that. And like, even me as a kid, like, I got brought up in Christianity, but I started asking, even as a kid, like, I feel like there's more to it than just this. And more recently, I started asking the question, I'm like, if God is an infinite being, infinite source, infinite power, how's there only one way to it? Shouldn't there be infinite ways to connect to him, her, both?
Yeah. That's so powerful, man. That's exactly how I see. Even though I'm a newborn in spirituality, I feel I've just been enjoying this whole process of connecting with Source in my own way, connecting with the spirit of my host right now, which is Gaia, and everybody that belongs to this beautiful ecosystem. And to me, there's just not. It would be very sad to have a universe where there's only one way to see God, to
Yeah.
see source, to see our origin. And this can get a little bit crazy when we talk about the expression of consciousness in the universe. But I'll only summon the part of how we as humans have the ability to actually, and this is a blessing that we have, to see the world in different ways. And it almost seems like we're hardwired to each one of us and programmed to see the world in different ways. And so trying to collectively create something that externally creates unity of belief, it's almost like contrary to our own nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You said a lot of stuff and I'm processing.
I guess the best way to see it is, because this is the kind of stuff that I try to explain people, that they don't need to find one way. And is if there is one thing I recommend people, is to just follow whatever resonates with them. Even people who are listening right now to me and you, they don't have to agree. They don't need to follow exactly what we believe, what we think. And there's the beauty of it, because it just enriches our human experience by them creating their own ideas of how spirituality work. As long as there's love at the forefront, I think that's the one thing that is unmovable in this universe. Love is the guiding force of this universe. And I'm still a little loose on the idea that I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there I'm really right. Am I right there, Dale?
Yeah. Love. It all goes to love.
That's right. All right, Dell. I want to get a final golden piece from you, where everybody that's been listening right now, if there's one thing that you can tell them at this moment in time that they can start doing, especially in these moments of introspective and reflection, what would you recommend everybody to do? And I know we gave a lot of advice and little tips in here of what to start doing, but something that comes to you that has helped you a lot in the past, and it seems like very, very useful right now.
Yeah. I would say that the very helpful tool is having that open mind of curiosity about yourself and discovering more about yourself and being present to that. And what happens in life is the universe shows us ourselves through people interactions that we have throughout the days and times. And once you're really present to those things and really set that space of being curious about it, the universe speaks to you in so many different ways. And this is the moment right now in that reflection to really fall deep in love with yourself.
Wow. You have a way, Dale, to get into my heart for some reason.
Yeah.
With every answer you give me, man. All right, Dale. What have you been doing that you want to drop, for people listening? And where can they find your work and find, anything that you offer as service to them that you want to share right now?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is a couple of things. First, I have a lovely podcast with my lovely fiance called Our Daily Magic,
Mhm.
and they can find us at www.ourdailymagic.com. And what we do there is we interview powerful spiritual teachers and holistic practitioners, healers. And pretty much what we're doing is helping our audience to incorporate daily magic that works for them into their daily lives. So we have all these different flavors out there so they can pick what flavor works for them and incorporate some additional magic that they want. And the second thing that I've been doing and really been doing with myself, and I love it, this is my universal baby that's been growing, is it's called True Essence Connection. In which what True Essence Connection is I help individuals who are ready to really explore those parts of themselves to connect to that divine nature that's within each and every one of us, to bring it out and express it to help uplift humanity. So tapping into that infinite greatness of the divine and bring that divine out. So like we mentioned before, going back to it, finding your flavor and serving your flavor to the world to help uplift humanity. And you can find my information at www.trueessenceconnection.com.
Man, let's start mixing that ice cream. Let's keep it up. Dell, all the links are going to be in the description of my channels. Thank you so much for doing this with me, brother. I hope to have you again soon because this has been amazing, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me. And you're amazing as well. We just are a perfect mirror for each other in this moment.
That's right, brother. All forgotten for Mother Gaia. All right, Dell. Thank you so much, man. I'll see
No
you in the next
problem.
episode.
Yep. Take care.